They discovered a deceased female on the floor in an advanced stage of decomposing. One's dead body to be in an apartment for a very lengthy period of time and not contact authorities, that raises a lot of concerns for us.
What puzzled the authorities even more was the autopsy report. The woman was 8 months pregnant. But who was this unknown individual? Why had no one reported her disappearance? And what could have led to such a tragic event? Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell. In today's episode, we're uncovering a deeply unsettling case that resulted in the loss of 3 innocent lives. Let's dive in. Tragic incident at gas station. On a cold December afternoon in 2022, Ayalu Wandamu was working his shift at Dash and Go, a convenience store located within a Shell gas station on New Hampshire Avenue in Silver Spring, Maryland. Ayalu Wandamu was a dedicated husband and a hard-working man. Born on the 2nd of November, 1961, in Ethiopia, he immigrated to the United States with his wife in 2002, seeking a better future. Though far from home, he remained deeply connected to his culture and faith, becoming a valued member of the Tewahedo Church in Maryland's Ethiopian Orthodox community. For many years, the gas station had been his place of work. But at 61 years old, Wandamu was preparing for retirement, looking forward to spending more time with his family. The 8th of December, 2022, was supposed to be his final day on the job. At around 2:58 p.m., a man entered the store. At first, he seemed like a regular customer. He picked up a bottle of iced tea and approached the counter. However, a disagreement soon began between him and Wandamu over the drink. Things escalated quickly. The man began to act aggressively, throwing items across the counter. Startled, Wandamu reached for a metal pole behind the register, hoping to defend himself and calm the situation down. The man stepped back and, in a moment of extreme reaction, revealed a silver object and used it in a way that resulted in fatal consequences for Wandamu. But the incident didn't stop there. The individual crossed the counter and continued his actions in a way that ensured Wandamu wouldn't survive. Afterward, he picked up the iced tea, calmly left the store, and vanished into the surrounding area. At 3:03 p.m., emergency services were contacted.
On December 8th, which was yesterday, at 3:03 p.m., the Montgomery County Police Emergency Communications Center received a call for a shooting.
Officers rushed to the scene and found Ayalu Wandamu behind the counter, unresponsive, with clear signs of severe injury.
Ayalu Wandamu, an employee behind the cash register counter, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. Wandamu was pronounced deceased on scene by Montgomery County Fire Rescue personnel.
Medical personnel did everything they could, but sadly, Wandamu did not survive. What was meant to be the start of a peaceful new chapter became the end of his life's journey. As police launched their investigation, they reviewed the store's surveillance footage and spoke with witnesses. Through this careful process, they were able to identify the suspect, 31-year-old Torrey Damien Moore.
Leaving the store and headed in the direction of the Enclave Apartments, which is across the street. Detectives from Major Crimes applied for and obtained an arrest warrant charging Torrey Moore, 31 years old, with first-degree murder and use of a firearm during the commission of a violent crime.
On the 9th of December, 2022, authorities formally charged Torrey Damien Moore in connection with the tragic incident, including serious criminal offenses. Surveillance footage played a crucial role in the investigation, capturing not only the confrontation but also Moore's path as he left the store. As detectives followed the trail, they discovered that Moore lived just across the street at the Enclave Apartments, the suspect's residence. Due to the severity of the case, a special operations team was called in to carry out a no-knock search warrant at his apartment. This type of warrant allows law enforcement to enter a residence without prior announcement, ensuring they can respond quickly and maintain control of the situation.
His front door was completely smashed in. SWAT had served a no-knock warrant.
Torrey Moore was taken into custody at his residence, where officers also recovered a firearm believed to be connected to the case.
Moore was taken into custody without incident. Items of evidence, to include a 9mm handgun, were located and seized by detectives.
But what they discovered next was truly shocking. Hidden in the shadows of the apartment was the remains of a woman, so severely deteriorated that identifying her was not immediately possible. The remains were respectfully transferred to the Montgomery County Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for further examination.
When SWAT made entry, and after arresting Moore, they discovered a deceased female, believed to be an adult, on the floor in the apartment in an advanced stage of decomposition.
During questioning, Moore calmly revealed the tragic truth: the woman was his girlfriend, Denise Middleton. According to his statement, her passing occurred during a serious argument between the two. Investigators were further heartbroken to learn that Denise had been 8 months pregnant at the time.
What appears to be a 26-year-old female who was 8 months.
Although Denise Middleton had suffered severe harm, no one in the building reported hearing anything unusual on the day of the incident. For weeks afterward, Moore remained in the apartment without notifying anyone about what had happened. Even more puzzling, no missing person report had been filed by her family, and no formal complaints were made about any odd smells coming from the unit. One resident, Tony Pineda, did recall noticing a strong, unpleasant odor when stepping out of the elevator near Moore's apartment, but assumed it was simply garbage. Another neighbor, Laia Kemp, said she reported strange smells in the hallway, but received only a generic message from the apartment management. We will be launching a new property management software system and a new resident portal. The resident portal will no longer be available.
I think that is crazy because our portal to make requests has been down for 2 months. So even if there were requests, they could have just gone unnoticed or have not been documented. But I did give a call on Monday just to ask if they were going to put out a statement or anything. They told me to contact the local police department and they weren't going to put anything out.
For weeks, neighbors endured an unexplained, unpleasant odor unaware that just down the hall lay the remains of a young mother whose life had come to a tragic end. The young mother tragedy. Denise Jenna Middleton was born on the 14th of March, 1996. In 2022, while pursuing a promising career as a professional hairdresser in Silver Spring, she met Torrey Moore. Together, they began building a life at the Enclave Apartments. Her future appeared bright, especially when Denise learned she was expecting a baby boy. She had already chosen a name, Ezekiel, inspired by the archangel, a symbol of protection and faith. Her dreams of motherhood were filled with joy, purpose, and hope. But that future was never realized. Denise's life was tragically cut short, and her journey into motherhood ended before it began. According to the medical examiner's report, her passing had occurred around October 2022, over a month before she was discovered. Investigators confirmed that the same weapon used in her death was later linked to the incident involving Ayalu Wandimu.
Wounds.
A forensic pathologist examined the child at the time of the autopsy and determined that the 8-month-old child was in fact viable at the time of his mother's death.
The timing of Denise's passing made the loss even more heartbreaking. Had she lived just a few days longer, her baby boy might have had a chance at life. For her loved ones, the pain was made even harder by the fact that the respectful farewell she deserved was no longer possible. Because of the condition in which she was found, her remains had to be cremated.
When we heard how badly decomposed her body was, it was just unbelievable to believe that we had been living our lives for that long and not knowing that she was dead.
Moore's criminal history was extensive and deeply troubling. Over the years, he had faced numerous charges, including robbery, assault, possession of illegal substances, and unlawful possession of a firearm. These records painted a picture of a man with a long pattern of dangerous behavior that many around him may not have fully understood. One particularly notable case stood out, a report filed by Denise Middleton herself. In June 2022, she reported to Norfolk, Virginia police that Moore had harmed her during an argument. A relative later told investigators that in one of their final conversations, Denise had fled to New York, attempting to break free from the toxic relationship. Despite her efforts to find safety, Moore's influence appeared to persist. Friends and family noticed Denise becoming more withdrawn, less communicative about her personal life, and more distant in the months leading up to her death. As detectives examined Moore's background further, they discovered another serious issue. Moore was legally prohibited from owning or carrying a firearm due to past convictions. How he obtained the weapon used in both incidents became an urgent question not just for the investigators, but for a shaken community. Court records also revealed that Moore had ongoing assault charges and a troubling number of complaints for erratic and threatening behavior. Yet, somehow, he had managed to avoid major legal consequences until a reality that left many, especially Denise's loved ones, asking how such a person could have remained free. What happened to Middleton? Authorities moved quickly to begin legal proceedings. Moore was scheduled to stand trial on the 12th of December, 2022. In addition to being charged in connection with Ayalu Wondimu's death, Moore now faced further charges related to the passing of Denise Middleton and her unborn child. Given the nature of the case, authorities also included a charge specifically addressing harm against an expectant mother. After his arrest, Moore was brought to the Montgomery County Police Headquarters. He was informed of his legal rights and interviewed. During that conversation, he admitted to visiting the Dash and Go convenience store and described the argument with the clerk that escalated into violence. When asked about Denise Middleton, however, Moore denied any involvement despite earlier statements suggesting otherwise. Investigators noted that his initial confession could not be used in court, as it had been made before his Miranda rights were read. Moore offered an alternative version of events. He claimed he had gone to New York City to bring Denise back to Maryland. He referenced a prior vandalism report he had made on May 12, 2022, as a marker in the timeline. After their return, Moore said they picked up food together. At some point, according to him, an argument began. He recalled that Denise fell outside his apartment, and while he admitted to becoming physical, he downplayed the severity of his actions. Moore stated that after the incident, the two went into the bedroom and he attempted to calm her down. He then left the apartment to purchase marijuana and returned about an hour later only to find Denise unresponsive. When questioned about any signs of injury or possible gunshot wounds, Moore claimed he was unsure. He did, however, confirm that Denise had told him she was expecting a baby boy due in October. Even after all the evidence, Moore continued to deny responsibility. He told investigators that after finding Denise, he left Maryland for California and stayed there for over a month before returning home. Despite Moore's denials, investigators had already built a strong case. Physical evidence, timeline inconsistencies, and multiple witness statements all pointed toward his involvement in both cases. The road to justice. On the 12th of December, 2022, Moore appeared before the district court in Rockville, Montgomery County. Many hoped for a swift path toward justice. However, the legal process took a turn when Moore's defense team requested a mental health evaluation. After reviewing findings from the Department of Health's Court-Ordered Evaluations Division, Judge Amy Bills ruled that Moore was not mentally competent to stand trial at that time.
Not competent to stand trial, and was also a danger to himself or to others after a court-ordered.
This development brought the legal process to a standstill, leaving the families of the victims feeling helpless and heartbroken as they awaited answers. Torrey Moore returned to court for additional hearings on the 15th of December and the 19th of December, 2022, both focused on assessing his mental fitness to stand trial. In each session, Moore was found mentally unfit to proceed with the case. Montgomery County State's Attorney John McCarthy voiced deep concerns during the proceedings. He highlighted the potential risks Moore could pose to both himself and the public if released. As a result, the court ruled that Moore would remain in police custody without the option for bail.
It's important to note that he is not free in the community. He is being held without bond because of the dangerousness, even though it's still pending as an evaluation for competency.
Moore's request for release under pretrial supervision was also denied. In an emotional interview, Middleton's cousin shared her deep frustration, saying, "I believe when everything became too overwhelming for him, he came back here knowing he'd be caught. I think he didn't know how to handle the situation, especially with her remains. I truly hope the justice system moves swiftly. I don't believe he's incapable of standing trial," explained what happened and why he did it. As news of the court's decision spread, the community reacted strongly. Many expressed disbelief on social media and in local news, questioning how someone with Moore's background and the amount of evidence against him could be found unfit to stand trial. People feared this might mean he wouldn't be held accountable. The court addressed these concerns, emphasizing that, under Maryland law, competency to stand trial is based on a legal standard, not public opinion. This evaluation ensures that a person understands the court process and can actively participate in their defense. Though delays in the case were upsetting for many, the court was required to follow due process. Moore was then placed in a mental health facility for treatment. By 2023, after ongoing evaluations, he was determined fit to stand trial. On May 16, 2024, 33-year-old Torrey Damien Moore was found guilty of first-degree murder, the use of a firearm during a violent act, and unlawful possession of a firearm in connection with the tragic death of Ayalu Wandimu. Moore now faces life in prison. His sentencing is scheduled for the 12th of December, 2024. Meanwhile, the trial regarding the passing of Denise Middleton and her unborn child is scheduled for the 18th of November, 2024. As the case moved forward, Middleton's family remained hopeful that full justice would be served. Though the journey was long and painful, they were committed to preserving Denise's memory and creating awareness to protect others in their community. What do you think? Will justice truly be served? Should Moore be held responsible for everything that happened? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If there's a case you'd like us to cover next, feel free to share. And as always, if you found this story important, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay safe, and see you next time.